Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my first impressions for Hinamatsuri. So this is a series I've heard about for quite a while, and I decided to finally check out the first episode of it just to check it out, just to get my first impressions, and of course make a video for you all. Um, so what are my thoughts on the first episode? Well, first off, this is primarily a comedy. It's very clear that this is a comedy based series, but it also has elements of supernatural as well as a little bit of heart to it, you could say. So, the basic gist of the story is that a young member of the Yakuza is suddenly surprised when a girl falls out of a portal in a giant metal egg into his living room. She ends up having psychic powers, and he automatically and inexplicably takes on a guardianship role over her while still trying to balance his work as a Yakuza member. And that's the gist of things. This first episode just really got the ball rolling with that, or I guess got the egg rolling. um, Introduced us to our characters, the general idea, and the type of comedy it tends to be going for. So let's kind of break this down. So the characters, let's talk about them first. So we have Nita. Nita is the Yakuza member. He's the father figure to our young girl. Um, this so far, this is just the gist of it. He's a young Yakuza member. He's trying to make a good impression, and he loves the finer things in life, especially expensive vases and art. That seems to be his kind of big passion, almost you could say. Um, he's he's very kind and believes in like treating people as you would want to be treated. And if someone does something for you, you repay them in kind. These are the kinds of ideals he stands by. And it's cool to see that. Like you see that in a lot of shows, movies, video games where characters are like the mafia, the yakuza, just that kind of thing, organized crime. A lot of them usually have some kind of code of ethics, this kind of like ideal system of ideals that they live by. They're not usually just these violent thugs. No. You watch The Godfather, you see the Corleone family's just insane level of respect in handling things. You watch Breaking Bad and you see the different organized drug pins in that and their empires and how they act. They're not just thugs. They have systems. They have ways of handling things and people. It's a lot more complex than just, oh, they're these criminals, they're thugs and stuff. Hell, you see this in some superhero stuff, even. Like with, well, Kingpin of Spider Man. Well, just Marvel in general, I guess. He's appeared in more than just Spider Man, he's appeared in Daredevil and whatnot as well. But yeah, Kingpin, definitely a great example of this as well, with organized crime and whatnot. Um, so it's like, I like to see that in here, how it's very much the same thing. Um, and you even see this in a small degree from the other members of the Yakuza that you see in the episode. Though it's not as apparent as with him because, well, we're following him. He's kind of one of our main two characters. Meanwhile, we have Hina. Hina is the girl who came from the egg. She has these psychic powers. She can move things with her mind, and she needs to use them. We find out in the episode that if she does not use her powers with in like certain periods of time of each other, she'll end up kind of, the powers will kind of like explode out of her, and it'll just keep happening like that. She needs to actively use her powers on a consistent basis. Hina is very dry. I guess that's a good way to put it. She's very dry of emotion. She doesn't have a lot of emotional depth to her. She's very savage too. Like if Nita says or threatens to do something that she doesn't like, she'll like smash his vases and his art and shit, or at least threaten to. And it's like, geez, girl. It's like she's gonna make sure she gets what she wants. Um, she also seems very like, what's the word for it? You know when like a character just is not just like a fish out of water, but just doesn't seem to know how to act. Seem to know how to act or just live amongst other people. That's kind of what like Hina is. She claims to have come from another world altogether. And in that world, she was, as she puts it, created for the sole purpose of following orders. That is the entire point of her existence, according to her. So here, she doesn't know how to do anything else. She doesn't know how to live outside of that, especially with Nita, who again does not order her to do anything. He talks to her, he listens to her, he respects her, and he treats her kindly and as a person. You can clearly see that this is not something she's used to, and she has a hard time expressing emotions because of it. She's become kind of shut into her own self. So you see how, even throughout just this first episode, she starts to grow and starts to realize that he's not like anyone else she's ever come across before. And by the end of the episode, she even smiles for the first time in the episode, like at nearly the very end, having finally like been able to express emotion just from being around this guy. And it's wild to see this kind of character and just kind of see her as almost tragic, because she's at certain points kind of a little shit when she's like kind of being savage and like breaking his shit and all that. She takes no shit from him. Like she forces him to buy her stuff, really expensive stuff too. They went to a store and she kept asking him like, "Oh, I want this stuff. I like this, all these clothes on this entire rack. Get all of them for me. Get me all these stuffed animals." And the bill ends up being $8,000. Now, I converted that from yen, so just keep that in mind. But it's just like just under 8,000 US dollars, and it's just like shit. That store is probably really happy with them. And I mean, the guy has the money. He's in organized crime. He's used to buying all these super expensive vases and paintings and stuff. So it's like, yeah, he has the money. Also, one of the paintings was of a vase, and I found that hilarious. Um, but I'll get more into that later. But yeah, she seems like a really interesting character who's going to develop well throughout the journey of just being around him. And he is connecting with her, finding himself in an unfamiliar territory of being a guardian for this little girl. But he's getting the grasp of it quickly. And I will, if I don't forget, get to that as well. Um, so, next I want to talk about the comedy. The comedy in this series is very much based on a couple main things. One, the dynamic between our main characters. As I noted, Hina is very dry witted. She doesn't show a lot of emotion, and most of her humor comes from the outlandish and very strong ways she reacts to things without, again, not showing emotion, not emotionally strong ways, but in terms of the things she does. And granted, this is clearly told to us to be because of how she existed in her world. But still, in the situations, it gives us as viewers a very extreme kind of reaction to things. Like, again, she's like, I want to do this. Just put anything in there, pretty much, that she might want to do. Nita says, no, you can't do that. She uses her powers to twist his arm behind his back and then breaks all his vases. It's such an extreme reaction. It's so unnecessary to just being told no. But that's the kind of humor it goes for. Nita, his humor comes from his reactions her, to her powers, to her over excessive desires for things, um, and so on and so forth. The again, the extreme strong ways she handles situations and being told no and stuff like that. His comedy, the comedy centering around him, comes from all of that and just how he's dealing with it. But then there's also these kind of weird situations and like just goofy little scenes and stuff as well. Um, like there's this one scene where they're at a revolving sushi bar, and Hina becomes obsessed with a very specific kind of sushi, because of the row that is on top of it. So she starts. She doesn't see it coming by on the conveyor belt much more, so she orders it special from the chef, and she just keeps ordering and ordering and ordering plate after plate after plate of it. And it's just like, it's just the fact that it's like she orders a couple plates, right? Like two plates of this sushi, and Nita's like, "Oh, you really like this sushi?" She orders two more plates. It's like, "Oh, you." He literally says that, and it's hilarious. It's like, "Oh, you," and then she keeps ordering more and more and more. And it's like, "Wait, stop!" And it's like, "Oh my god!" It just keeps going, and that's the beauty of the joke. Um, and then there's also this scene where near the end she ends up helping him on one of his jobs as a yakuza member, kind of against his will. And she goes into this building where he's supposed to confront this other group, and all of a sudden you just see the people start flying out the windows. And at first it's just like, okay, that's funny enough, like you see just how easily she's taking care of them. But then all of the people, all of the members of this group flying out the window start saying ouchie. Not ouch, ouchie, specifically. And it's the funniest fucking thing. These organized criminals are flying out the windows and saying ouchie. It is really, really fucking funny. Um, but then you get to other more serious moments as well. And one of the biggest things that this first episode showed us is that Hina was used in her world. Again, as she kind of said it, she existed purely to take orders, purely to follow orders. And it's very heavily implied and almost pretty much said that she was used by people because of it, that she was made to serve against her will, and her powers were used for other people's gain. And there's a point in the episode here where Nita kind of does the same thing. He brings her to this site that they're supposed to be working on, like developing the land and all. And he has her uproot the trees, cut them down into lumber, and even refill the holes and shit. And it's like it's super easy for her and everything, but like afterwards when they're on their way back and in the car and everything, she's like she realizes like something's off about that she feels like she's being used again, and he notices right away, and he acknowledges it right away. He acknowledges about her being used and everything, and it's this really good moment that shows that he's aware of what he did, and he's aware that he doesn't want to force her to do this. And that does come into play in in the end of the episode, because before she went in to that other group's base, just to have something to call it, um, she was basically expecting him to tell her to go in there and kill the enemy, because that was the kind of thing she did in her world. And he basically flat out tells her, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You're your own person. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to order you around. And again, it shows his personality being a very good, caring person, despite being an organized criminal. Um, and it shows a completely different side, and that's what causes her to smile, and what causes her to choose to go in and help him out anyway. And it goes back to, again, with the other part of his personality about wanting to repay people in kind. After she helps him out and he actually gets a promotion because of it, he decides to thank her for what she did by helping him, and he decides to give her whatever she wants, and she just wants the sushi. Instead, he takes her to the highest end restaurant possible and gives her an entire like big old bowl of the roe she likes, with like rice and whatnot in it as well. And it's just like it's exactly what she would have wanted, because it's the roe part of the sushi that she liked. And now there's just this big ass bowl of it. And she even says that it's very good. Um, this series surprised me. Let's end it with that. This episode surprised me, because I think this is the series where I've seen that like that GIF floating around on social media where it's like the person's like making the ramen or whatnot, and it's like you add this and this and this and a gun, and just like shoves the gun into the ramen. I think it's the same show, because I think I've seen people mention Hinamatsuri with that GIF. I think it's the same one. But that scene wasn't in the first episode, so I'm not sure. And it didn't show the person; it just showed the like close up of the ramen. Um, and I expected it to be more ridiculously goofy, but it's not. It actually has a lot of heart and depth to it. The characters are really likable, like right away. Um, and the scenarios they're put into are funny, and not just funny, but entertaining. You enjoy it. You find yourself laughing along with it, and you get into the moments and the characters more so than you would think you would. It really impressed me, honestly. Um, Maybe not as much as other shows have. Like, there's definitely been other shows that I didn't want to check out at first, but ended up surprising me when I finally did. There's definitely more that did that better. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid being a great example of that. But I'm still very impressed, and this series could definitely become something really good. And I definitely plan to continue it. Now, I watched it in the sub, So I don't know what the dub's like. The dub might actually make it even funnier in some ways, depending on the voice actors. Um, and I'll definitely check out the dub, but the sub voice actors still do a very good job expressing everything really well. So I don't mind watching the sub if I don't end up liking the dub. But I want to hear your thoughts. So tell me in the comments below what you think of the first episode of Hinamatsuri. And I do think I'm going to continue this, so please, no spoilers. Um, so yeah, I'm probably not going to do too many other first impressions videos. I know I've done quite a few of them lately. I'm probably not going to do many others in the near future because I can't watch everything at once. Um, so it's not like I'm just going to watch everything that I was like possibly going to react to or anything like that. No. No. This is stuff that I was basically like I probably wouldn't be reacting to anyway. Um, that's the kind of stuff that I'm checking out for these first impressions, like Witcher, um, uh, Wave, Listen to Me, Hinamatsuri. This is the kind of stuff again that it's just like I probably wouldn't be reacting to. So I'm just choosing to check it out on my own time. Uzaki-chan, another example of one I did recently. So I'm checking them out on my own time, giving them a shot, and enjoying them to varying degrees. But yeah, either way, like I said, tell me your thoughts, but no spoilers on the future of this series down in the comments below. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.